Hi, my name's Kerry Badham, and today I want to show you our two brand new products that we've added to the FMM range. We have a You and Me word cutter, and when you use it you cut it out all in one piece. And we have a Mr. and Mrs. cutter, and when designing these we thought long and hard about the wedding cake range and the anniversary range and engagement, and we thought, how can we make those cakes a little more modern than what they already are, so still keeping the traditional side of the wedding cake but giving it that extra lift to bring it into a more modern and fashionable cake. Before I show you how to use the cutters, I wanted to show you the kind of result that you will have from using this cutter on your cake. So here I've done a 2-tier cake, and we've kept it in the wedding cake theme, or engagement cake, or even an anniversary cake, but we're just showing here how you can use this on top of your cake. If you wanted to, you could use it on the front of a cake, or you could stand it on your board. It's entirely up to you. But today I'm going to show you how to use it and how to make it curved. We've made the Mr. and Mrs. curved words, and what we've done is we've placed them on the board of the cake rather than on the top of the cake, just to show you an alternative way in which they can be used. The wedding cake we've kept quite traditional but with a modern twist. We thought it would be fun to make it a Mr. and a Mrs. So here we've incorporated the bride and the groom in the cake itself. And you can also download the project sheets from the FMM website showing you how to make both these cakes that I have here today. It's very important to use the correct type of paste when using these cutters. I've used a 50-50 mix of flour paste, and the other part is of modelling paste. If you don't use this mixture, you run the risk of them sticking in your cutter, but also they won't have the strength to stand on the board or on top of your cake. That's the most important thing, is that with the flour paste in with the modelling paste, it will dry off quicker, but it will also have the strength to stand on your board or on top of the cake. So now I'm going to show you how to use the cutter. They're lovely, nice, large letters. You'll place it on top. I rolled this out a little while earlier and it feels quite nice and dry on top. So place my cutter on top. Now the important thing with this is to have an even distribution of pressure all the way along, because if you don't, it's not going to cut through nicely. So I apply pressure and then I slide it around my mat. So I can feel the sections on the mat below. If you can't feel your mat below, then you know that you've rolled your paste too thick. And that part is quite important. You don't want it too thin because it won't have strength either. So roll it round, and I can feel here that all of my cutter is now touching the mat nicely underneath. So I'm going to remove the excess around it. And now I want to remove the inner sections. So quite simple. Remove these. The way you slid this around your board, you'll have a nice cut, so no need to rush this. You want it to be as neat as possible. And here it is now sitting inside the cutter. So it's always quite nice just to go over and smooth with your finger. I find that if there is any edges, then you'll make these disappear. Nice and simple. So you can do this in two ways. You can tap this and it will loosen it to come out. And then any remaining, I just popped it through with my brush. So now this is a line of letters and they will move. You bring them out. So if you want to dry this flat, you can. And what I just did was I used my cutter here just to make sure that I'd done them level. But as you see on the cake, we've curved them. So now I'm going to show you how I did that. So what I will do is lift my cutout and I'm going to place it on the edge of a dummy. And this is why it's so important that you're using flour paste and modelling paste. Now you put it on the top and instantly what will happen is sugar will stretch, because that's what it does. It's flexible, it will stretch. So I'm actually going to push mine down to the rim here, so it's all in line and I know it's level. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some dot pins. And these are the pins with the very big rounded heads on the tops. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop it in places to give it a little bit of support. So don't push it into the sugar. What we're doing is we're using these to stop the paste from stretching. So that's a very simple way of doing it, but it does work. So here you can see the M is stretched. So I'm going to move that back and I'm going to place one in there, and that will stop that from moving. And then I'm going to go down here. So not too far in because you don't want to damage the lettering. And then I'm going to put one here on the E. Now I'm going to leave this to dry overnight, but first of all I'm going to leave it for a few hours, and then once it's been drying for a few hours I will then turn it over and I will dry it standing up. So you leave that overnight, and then when you get up the next day you remove the pins and this will be standing upright just how it is on top of the cake. Very simple and easy to use. It's a lovely cutter, gives a real modern touch on top of cakes, wedding cakes, anniversary cakes, engagement cakes, or even just a cake to give to your friend as a thank you. And we think it's a lovely essential tool in your toolbox. We've now made the topper and it's completely dry, and you're probably wondering how you managed to get it to stay up there. So what I did once it was completely dry, I gently turned it over, and then on the bottom I used just water and put a little line across the bottom of each of the points that are going to be touching the cake. And I left it for a few minutes, and by leaving it for a few minutes what this does is it activates the tylo in there and it turns into like a glue. So that was the first thing that I did. Once it was a little bit sticky I put it on top of the cake and I waited for it to start to stick. If I turn the cake around I can show you on the back of the cake here I've used 2 lolly sticks. I've got one here behind the Y and I've got one here behind the M. So I've done it very discreetly. They're the white paper ones. So I cut one in half and I've placed it behind and I've just stuck it on with a little bit of royal icing, and that gives it an extra bit of support. Now, Mr. and Mrs., I decided to put this one on the board, so you're probably wondering how we managed to get this to stay up and stay on. I allowed it to dry completely, as I showed you earlier in the video, but obviously we couldn't stick lolly sticks through the board. We probably could if we really tried, but we'd probably make a mess as well. So we can't get behind here with the camera, unfortunately. But what I did was I, again, wet the bottom of the sticking points of the Mr. and Mrs. and had to be very, very careful because we've got black paste going on white. Allowed it to become sticky, so it activated the Tylo just the same. Then I placed it on the board and I left it sit for about half an hour or so till I knew it was quite a bit more secure. Then what I did was I got a piping bag, put the royal icing in with a very fine nozzle and went right down the back very carefully, and in there I just put a tiny amount of royal icing, and that dries like really, really secure. It's like rocks when it dries, and that is what's supporting it on the board. So it's nice and simple, easy to use, but gives you this lovely effect where it's just standing on its own. Thank you for watching.